community.
The views expressed on this program do not necessarily represent those of Revive FM or its management.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Revive FM 94.0. I'm your host Nawaz Raja Pakistani with your weekly program Signature Talk. Or please don't forget to call us on 0333 444 0940. Today we are going to do a very interesting program with our guest. His name is Raja Salman, and he is financial analyst, and he has a background as asset and property management as well. So welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, today we will discuss a couple of topics, and as we are going through these coronavirus lockdown restrictions, so we will discuss with him these personal experiences he have a couple of weeks back with his family. So we're going to discuss all these things with him, and then in the second part of the program, we will discuss about the property, definitely, which is his expertise, what's going to happen with the property market. And then in the end, as we, the representing different communities here on this radio. And nowadays, a couple of days back, the government of Britain has put Pakistan on the red list. So we are going to discuss that thing as well, because a lot of Pakistani community at the moment discussing this thing, and it's very close to them, because when you put any country on the red list, there are a lot of restrictions, and you cannot travel as freely as you want to be. So a lot of people are affected by these red list restrictions. So we will discuss this at the end of the program as well, our third part of the program. So first of all, welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So as we discussed earlier that your whole family gone through this coronavirus thingy. So nowadays they are discussing about the coronavirus restrictions. So it's very important that we discuss about with the families who has gone through these problems, so that the people, like especially in Pakistani community and like in Pakistan, some people listen to this program in Pakistan as well. They consider that this coronavirus is just like a hoax, like it's not true. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason I'm going to discuss this thing with you, so that people can know the real pain about this virus. Mm-hmm. How does it affect the family and your working and all sort of things? And definitely it affects your I will say the mental strength as well, I will say, because it gives you a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about what happened with your family.
So, alhamdulillah, everyone's better now. But yeah, we, the family ended up getting COVID. It was very unforeseen the way we got it. It started with mum, and other sisters and siblings got it, and father got it. And originally, when you think, oh, okay, you know what, COVID's going around and it's not that bad. It's just a flu. It's just a cold. And a lot of people around you are saying that, you think, okay, even if I get it, inshallah, it'll be fine. And I'll drink like some herbal tea, and I'll do this, and I'll make sure that I'm doing some exercise. But when you see the really bad effects of it, it grips you from your neck, essentially, and it cripples you. That's the best way I could put it. I got to see the kind of, what you could say, the milder symptoms of it, and then the really, serious symptoms of it within the space of 2 weeks at home.
So just one question, how many family members you are, like 8 or 10? Eight. Yeah. So almost 8 people gone through this, the thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
I will say
so
8.
You could say 8, exactly.
8 people gone through this, and this is the second variant. Actually, it's not the first variant; the second variant, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
And it was so infectious that everyone was getting this thing in London, isn't it?
Exactly. That's the thing. So the first variant, I remember when the first variant first kicked off, and I got really, really ill around that time. And this is when we were all in the offices. And I thought, no, it's just the flu. It's not COVID. There was no testing at the time. Well, no real testing going on at the time. There were a couple of cases.
Like it was not as easy as now at that.
Exactly. So it was about 3 weeks before the lockdown. So there was no real testing. And it was the worst flu I'd ever had. The aches, like the brain fog. So all the symptoms were similar to the second time. And I didn't get too ill the second time. But at that point as well, people are like, oh, you know what? It's not that hard to get. you can't really give it to people, and it's just a flu, and you'll be fine, and
The government should not do the lockdowns and these sort
Exactly.
of things. It's too hard and too harsh, isn't it?
Exactly. And then even now, the second lockdown, the third lockdown, thinking exactly the same thing. Oh, why did they lock down? And, it's making life difficult. And then when, someone in your family, someone close to you gets it, and you can see that, okay, you have the mind fog where your brain just essentially your brain decides to switch off. Like it's such a horrible virus. The weakness is the worst bit. Alhamdulillah, there was no breathing issues in anyone that we had. Well, it wasn't that bad. The temperature, like you've got like 39, 40 degree temperature. You get scared trying to look after somebody like that. And the weirdest thing is walking around your own house with a face mask on, and you're like, oh my God, this is where you're meant to feel safe. But it's obviously infected your home, and you got to take your precautions. But it's the weakness, and that's the first time in my life I've ever seen where it's made someone so weak. They literally thought their heart was about to fail. Like it was, you cannot talk. You're so weak. Your voice doesn't come out, and it's not because you haven't got breath in your lungs. It's because you'd have no energy to talk, and you're like that for like 5 or 6 days. And kind of, seeing that, it really cemented it to say that this is not a hoax. You have to be careful. People love a good conspiracy theory because it explains, it gives them a chance to trivialize something and say, oh, the government's doing this, or it was leaked by some laboratory in the middle of nowhere. And, that's,
whatever from where it ever came. But this is the reality at the moment.
Exactly.
We have to face this reality, isn't it?
Exactly. And it's like, those things don't matter anymore. You can say all you want, but when somebody is ill, you really need to go, okay, no, how do I protect myself firstly? And then if I have it, how do I make sure that other people who can't necessarily fight it off don't get it? And, that you keep them safe, you keep your community safe. And that's the most important thing. And that's what I would say. I mean, even with lockdown restrictions easing and things getting better, take precaution, because people are still getting it, and you can get it. And honestly, the biggest issue, and this was, something that's been highlighted, the biggest issue, especially in our community, is we have underlying health conditions we don't know about. It can be driven by our diet, loads of things. I don't need to go, don't really want to go too far into it, but you could have something, not know at all, and you get COVID, and it really, really seriously affects you. Just be careful. Make sure you don't.
Just coming back to the main question again. I think your father was the most affected one in this COVID, and he was looking after the family who was infected by this coronavirus. And he was looking after them, and he didn't know that he got affected as well, isn't it?
Exactly. So my mom got it. She got tested, and then when her came positive, the whole family went, and kind of my siblings got it. And me and dad, we were fine. So we were looking after everybody. And then I think this was probably day 8 or 9. And he just started feeling really, really unwell. And I was like, okay, this doesn't look good. Tested him again. And he got it. And it was like, you're washing your hands constantly. You've quarantined everyone in like
everyone was in isolation.
Exactly. And you're making sure that everything's being washed with disinfectant. You're making sure you don't touch your face without cleaning something, to the point where you're using like disposable cutlery just so that you don't have to wash it afterwards, and you still get it. And it's just super, super, kind of transmissible. And I remember, so Redbridge was like one of the worst hit areas. I kind of understand it. It makes sense how everybody was getting it. It was very, very transmissible.
One thing, the recovery from this coronavirus, like, after like 10, 15 days or 20 days, you get a result that, okay, you are negative. But still, you cannot walk and you cannot go into your life as you used to be before. Like, it takes time to recover, isn't it?
It really takes its toll on you. No, definitely. Especially with my father, he was, the 10 or 15 days that he literally spent in, it was like, you're in bed because you can.
After getting a negative result, he spent 10, 15 days in the bed still,
So there was that first period, and then when he kind of felt better, so we were doing we had rapid tests at home. We did one and it came out negative, but like going for a walk around the block, it completely just knackered him out for the day. So we'd get up, get him ready, get ready, and we'd go for a walk at about lunchtime, 15, 20 minutes around the block, and finished. He's absolutely, completely exhausted for the day, and he'd just spend the whole day kind of sitting and laying down because you become so tired. And it's like basic things as well. It messes with your mind. So basic things become so difficult to comprehend or understand. And to the point where like even he would get annoyed with things like, hang on a second, you know, we're all professionals. We love working. We're kind of, you know, addicted to work. And it's like, I read one email today and I can't even be bothered to like respond to it. And it was like that for, I would say, well over 15, 20 days after, you know, his kind of first negative result. And even now, I think still,
he feels pain.
He feels pains exactly that have started happening in COVID, or he'll get exhausted very quickly. So you know, you can go a whole day, a 9 to 5, and then go from 8 to, you know, 10 and play sports or something, and you're spending the whole day working. And it's like you do your 9 to 5 and you're knackered after that. You're like, I need to go to sleep. I need to go home and just rest. Yeah, there are long-term implications of this thing. And it's weird. It's not been seen before. So to those who think it's not real, there's so many stories. And actually, you know what? This is the thing. So before we, you know, my household got it, unfortunately, someone who's very close to my father passed away from COVID. And even then it didn't really hit that hard that, oh, wow, you know, that was kind of the first death that I knew within my circle that someone passed away.
Just like shocking news, I will say.
Exactly. It was very shocking. And like, you can't even go to offer your condolences. You can't go for the funeral processions and for prayers and stuff. And it's all very shocking, but then you kind of get along with the day and you go, okay, well, you know what, it happened and it mustn't be, maybe he was really ill and he had something, but no, he was pretty healthy. It's only when you actually see it firsthand that you think, okay, no, we really need to be careful. And it's the message to the community. It's really take it seriously.
Take it seriously because it's very contagious and, you know, the infectious, I will say.
Yeah,
and it takes time to recover. Even if you get a negative test after the positive, you get a negative test. It takes out every single thing from your body, I will say, energy-wise. It will take out every single thing from you and it takes time to recover it. Because I have spoken to a couple of people, in my view, I think they are saying, like, after one of my personal friend, he's a very young man in 40s, and he got this in Pakistan, and he said, you know, after 3 or 4 months, he still feel pain when he is driving or sitting in the car. He cannot drive as he used to drive it because he was in marketing, and you know, the people in marketing, they used to their work, you know, the type is like that. They have to travel a lot. So he was saying that, you know, he cannot travel now because he feel too much pain in his legs, and so the recovery is also very painful, I will say.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that.
You cannot recover within a week, within 2 weeks. It takes time. It's not a doctor advice, but I'm saying the first-hand experience. I'm telling you, it takes time. It takes time, like 2 months, 3 months to recover it. And how you recover it, I think it depends on the willpower as well.
Well, that's the thing. Like, willpower is super important. It depends on your diet and how much you push yourself to say, no, I'll really, you know, I want to get better. It takes time and it's new. So, you know, we don't really know how long it will really take. But back to the point of willpower, the lockdowns haven't helped that to an extent, right? And although these lockdowns are very, you know, they're important, they're needed. Generally, when you get COVID and you're in a lockdown, it plays on your mind because you're like, everything is doom and gloom. You know, how are we going to get better? That's when you have to have your trust in, you know, your own willpower, your trust in your faith and your iman to say, okay, no, these things happen, and you know, with hardship comes ease. So inshallah, it will get better. You have to focus and give yourself that kind of, you know, I will get better. We've got a doctor in our family, and he really helped throughout the whole process. He kind of guided us, and he was actually he came to the UK to treat COVID patients. And so
Pakistani doctors are helping, you know, the British community as well.
Exactly. And you know, he did give us, you know, medication to take and stuff like that. But the one thing that he did, and I found this quite interesting, is we say, you know, he was like, no worries, you'll get better. You'll be fine. Don't worry. 3-4 din ka. But that has such a big effect on you. Where you're like, okay, well, you know, it's a doctor, even if it's a doctor, but someone is encouraging you to say, don't worry, Acha, you know what, you have to just walk around for 15 minutes today, even if it's in the garden. But don't worry, man, you'll be okay. You'll feel better. You're going to get better. Don't take any worry. It really has an effect on you. And you think, okay, well, that boosts your morale. It boosts your willpower. And that really helps.
So that's the thing, like, you need to take Corona, COVID-19 seriously, but don't take that much seriously that it take on your nerves, isn't it? Exactly. That it scares you too much. Okay, it's a reality that is very painful, but you need to face it as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you start scaring yourself, maybe you don't die because of the corona, you die because of the heart attack.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. We say, so it's very true. It's don't get scared. Like if it happens, there's a will behind it. Everything happens for a reason. It's Qadar Allah.
Qadar Allah, but you need to be careful. You need to follow the rules and regulations.
Exactly. The Prophet ﷺ himself said that you tie your camel and then you leave it on Allah. You don't leave it out and go, okay, it will look after itself. No, you tie it down and then you go, okay, then it's Qadar Allah.
Then it's Qadar Allah. Okay, the last thing you discuss about this quarantine and isolation, because it's quite. I was thinking about the children as well, because if you are in a family and you have kids like the 3 years or 4 years old kids, it's very hard for them as well.
Very difficult, yeah.
It's very hard for them as well. So we need to find out the way for those children as well, how we need to deal with it. Because I recently came back, and I know I have done this quarantine. I know it's very hard with the kid to do it.
Now exactly.
It's very hard to control the kid as well. We cannot go outside. You need to be watching the cartoons all the time. So these things are very hard. So we need to be ready. We need to be very careful about these the coronavirus thing, because it's a reality. And our community, especially back in the community, I have seen it. There is no stress there. I'm very happy, frankly. There is no stress there. But at the same time, I will say it's okay. There is no stress. Very good things. People are walking around, and they are but at the same time, we need to take precautions as well.
Exactly.
We need to take the precautions, because the first wave was very different. Maybe it was not that much contagious as it is now, the second wave. And this wave in London, sometimes it looked like it gone through every single household, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because in my circle, I was not here. In my circle, every single person has spoken to, they said they got infected with this second variant.
Yeah.
So it's quite contagious, and we need to be very careful. We wish our Pakistani community in Pakistan that they will take it seriously and they will listen to our advice, and they don't walk around like they are doing it now, because it's contagious and it's in the Pakistan at the moment.
Exactly.
And we will discuss how the last part of the program. So this is the break time, and we have to go into the break, and after the break we will discuss about the property market. Stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum.
If you're looking for a unique bespoke cake made especially for your big day, then look no further. Here at Sugar Sprinkle Cakery, we design some of the most imaginative and delicious home-baked cakes for your special occasions. We do fresh cream, buttercream, eggless and vegan cakes. Check us out on Instagram or Facebook at Sugar Sprinkle Cakery, or just call 07932 665 833. That's 07932 665 833.
ये आयशा है। ये बहुत छोटी सी थी जब इसके वालिद का एक हादसे में इंतकाल हो गया। वो अपनी माँ और छोटे बहन भाइयों के साथ रहती है। आयशा जैसी लाखों बच्चियां जिंदगी की बुनियादी सहूलतों से बिल्कुल महरूम है। यही वजह है कि वो स्कूल भी नहीं जा सकती। मिनहाज वेलफेयर फाउंडेशन ने आपके एहतियात और अपनी खिदमत दुनिया भर के यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चों के लिए वक्फ कर दी है। एक यतीम और बेसहारा बच्चे का सहारा बनिए। आज ही अतिया कीजिए।
अभी कॉल मिलाएं 0300 3030 777 या हमारी वेबसाइट विजिट करें
www.minhajwelfare.org।
अब हम धीरे धीरे लॉकडाउन से बाहर आ रहे हैं। अब हम घर से बाहर निकल सकेंगे और कुछ ऐसी चीजें भी कर पाएंगे जिनकी हमें बहुत ख्वाहिश थी, जैसे कि टेक अवे कॉफी के लिए दोस्तों से मिलना या फिर बारबेक्यू के लिए खानदान के दूसरे लोगों से मुलाकात। 3 में से एक इंसान जिसमें कोविड-19 के कोई आसार भी नजर नहीं आते, अनजाने में इसे फैला सकता है। ये आपका कोई दोस्त भी हो सकता है, कोई रिश्तेदार, यहाँ तक कि खुद आप भी। कम ट्रैवल करके बाहर कब मिलने से हम इसे फैलने से बचा सकते हैं। आइए इस अगले कदम को इंतहाई एहतियात से उठाएं। याद रखें, हैंड, फेस, space and fresh air.
Kebabish Original, one of the biggest names in the restaurant trade. Visit your local KO to experience the thrill of the grill and the most authentic Pakistani cuisine. From our kebabs to our curries and from our mixed platters to our peri-peri, our chefs prepare your food in front of you while you wait. KO is now offering franchise opportunities. To take advantage of our proven and successful business model, contact us on 0208 446 7779 or visit kebabishoriginal.co.uk.
People of Asian and Black ethnic origin are at an increased risk of COVID-19. Queen Mary University London has launched a research study called Covidence UK to find out why this is. If you are Black or Asian, we need your help to complete our studies. All you need to do is complete an online survey. Please help us to understand the coronavirus disease so we can develop tools to prevent it. Sign up at qmul.ac.uk/Covidence. Sign up and save lives.
Now we're gradually coming out of lockdown. We can meet up outside in groups of up to 6 or 2 households. Have friends round for a drink in the garden. There you are, doing your bit, keeping a safe distance. When it starts to get dark and a little chilly, and suddenly your lounge looks very warm and inviting. But don't forget, you're much safer in the fresh air because COVID-19 particles are blown away. Let's take this next step safely. Remember, hands, face, space, and fresh air.
Near Neighbours is a national key organisation working in your local area who have been leading on bringing people together in communities that are religiously and ethnically diverse so that they can get to know each other better, build relationships of trust and collaborate together on initiatives that improve the local community they live in. One of the current projects Near Neighbours is leading on is the Community Champions Programme. We are trying to increase awareness by delivering the current healthcare messaging about the COVID vaccine. We have created free resources on the Near Neighbours website for communities to access, share, and help dispel myths about the COVID vaccine. They are all available in community languages, including Urdu, Punjabi, Gujarati, and many more. You can also find us on all the social media platforms too. To find out more, visit www.nearneighbours.org.uk. I'm taking the vaccine. Are you? Protect yourself, protect others, save lives.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਚਾ ਕੇ ਰੱਖ ਸਕੋ
तुम्हारी जात ने बचाओ
ਆਪਣੀ ਹਿਫਾਜ਼ਤ ਕरें
अपना ख्याल रखो
ନିଜର ਪ੍ਰੋਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ
Protect yourself. Near Neighbours, bringing people together.
Revive FM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile,
and online.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Welcome to Revive FM 94.0. I'm your host, Nawaz Raja Pakistani, with your weekly program Signature Talk. And before the break, we were discussing about the coronavirus, and we're trying to convince our community that it's not a hoax. You need to be careful.
Definitely.
And with me in the program is Raja Salman, who is a financial analyst, and he is also asset and property investment management experience as well.
Yeah.
And in this part of the program, we will discuss how this coronavirus is affecting the businesses, and especially the property market at the moment. And this is very core market, the property market, especially while we are sitting in the London. And London is always, one of my friends, Mr. Jamil, he says London is the darling of investor, isn't it? London property is the darling of investors.
Definitely, yeah.
So how does this going to affect it? Because Rishi Sunak, he has done couple of good things in the past. So we will discuss how these things affected the market and how it's going to affect now. So what do you think in the past 1 year, the property market was stable and it gone well?
It wasn't stable at all. There was a lot of surprises. So, back when the first lockdown happened, essentially the country for 2 months was completely brought to a standstill. It was like, no, nothing can open. Construction was stopped. Every single thing was stopped because they were trying to contain the first wave.
The last year in March.
Exactly, March last year, the first lockdown. Now, back then, people kind of thought, okay, we're going to have... So, bearing in mind, construction was stopped. No one was allowed to do any kind of work. There weren't any, completions had been put on a halt. You weren't allowed to complete because they were trying to discourage people from going to see properties, people going into the office and that kind of thing. So people thought, okay, there's going to be a huge crash and, everything's going to be super cheap and we're going to go back to 2007, 8 and 9, where the property, the financial crisis happened. There was a crash and everything. And that's kind of where we're going to land. The opposite happened in kind of property prices, number one. If anything, as soon as the market was reopened, people started buying like crazy. This was contributed by the fact that government was actually pushing people to buy. So there was the reduction in stamp duty. So regardless of whether or not you're a first-time buyer, you got up to 500K purchase price. There was no stamp duty.
No, it's a big relief, isn't it?
Very big relief. If you think about
how much it was before, because I didn't buy any property, so I don't know.
So it started at 125K. They had a special requirement for first-time buyers. So if you're a first-time buyer, up to 300K outside of London, in London up to 500K, the property value, you pay 0% stamp duty. And then from there onwards, I think it was a 2%, or whatever the rate tables were. And then what they said, okay, we want to kickstart the home buying process. How can we get people buying houses? Because in any economy, especially like, in the wise words of your friend, Mr. Jamil, London is the darling of global property investment. The UK property plays a massive role in the economy. So kickstarting that will kind of that gets the big money rolling, gets people investing in businesses, gets people going up and going. So they reduced stamp duty for anyone buying their next home, not for second buyers or multiple landlords. That stayed at 3% flat.
Okay.
Stamp duty.
So it's only for first time buyers.
First-time buyers and people buying like their next home, not a second home. So say you're selling your current, say you live in a 2-bed flat, you're upgrading to a 3-bed house, you don't pay stamp duty up to 500K, and anything beyond that was the standard 3% rate. So that was the focus. So that really kickstarted property, where we thought, yes, at the beginning of the first lockdown, we had loads of people that weren't paying rent. We had, the mortgage relief, which a lot of mortgage companies were kind of sticking to, some weren't, if it was a buy-to-let mortgage. So people thought, okay, well, this means there's going to be a crash. There wasn't. Prices went up, not astronomically, they went up quite a bit. Yeah, so they went up quite a bit. We're looking outside London, we were looking at almost, an average of a 6% rise. And that's a big number if you think about it within the space of a year. London itself was pretty heavily hit. So a lot of this, what drove a lot of this was... It's a combination of rent. It's a rental demand. It's a combination of people not wanting to live in London anymore, working from home. So if someone had some money, they would have been like, okay, well, you know what? I don't need to rent in London anymore because I don't have to go into the office. I can live further out in the suburbs, zone 5-6 onwards, or I could live in a different, in a town right in the middle of Essex or somewhere in Surrey or Kent. Because I don't need to go
even in Birmingham, isn't it? Because the rents are very, very low in Birmingham and Nottingham area.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So both rent and purchase prices. So if you had in London, if you're spending to live in Zone 3, for example, in Leighton, I recently sold a couple of properties within the Zone 3 Leighton, which is one of the biggest gentrification hotspots. People are coming in like crazy. You're spending upwards of £500,000 on a property. For a 3-bedroom house, for example, that needs another 100,000 to put towards work and renovation. You're going to have to put together, if you're buying even if you're buying as a first-time buyer, the 5% mortgages, they've come back now, but they weren't there. So it's at least 15% you're putting down, 10 to 15%. You're putting upwards of 50, 60, 70,000 pounds as a deposit. Okay, you don't have to pay for stamp duty if it's below 500k. That's a lot of money. If you could put that same amount down and pretty much buy 50% of your property in cash somewhere outside of London, in a very nice in a nice town or in a nice city where you know there's good schools, and you don't have to travel to London anymore because you're working from home.
If you're working from home, it's easy for you.
It's easy for you, exactly. So yes, property prices fell in London, and they're still quite low in the center of London. There was something off the back of that. Rental rates were like a 17.7% dip.
I was reading an article a couple of minutes ago, and it's a company, Chesterton's. I think they were saying, the prices in central London, they remained stabilized. They remained stable, isn't it, last year? But the prices around the other areas, they gone up like 1.5% outside London.
No, definitely, and that was a point that I was going to make. It's no worries. That was a point I was going to make. Prices. So people are moving out of London, so they're not as inclined to want to live there. So rental rates fell 17.7%. Some were saying there was Belvoir, I think, was saying that. Prices, they remain stable. Stable is a good word. I actually think in my kind of what Zoopla was saying there was a drop. There was a 1.2% drop Q4 last year. In London, prices in the suburbs went up. Like I said, people are no longer needing to live in central London. So one of the biggest things that drives rental value in central London is you have, people who are like, okay, well, I work in, for example, in the Square Mile. I need a room in Zone 1, so I'll live in a HMO. One of the biggest drops in the property market was HMOs were going empty. There was a huge kind of crash in the value of those. People are now saying, okay, well, I don't need to live there. I can live further out because I don't need to bother about travel costs and getting into London on time and stuff like that. So I'll either buy or I'll rent somewhere outside. That pushed prices up. People are now spending more on property. There's a surge in demand on what's for sale. We had a property and the bid started at 520. And by the time, we ended up completing with a client, it was well over 600 grand because there were so many people interested in it, again, in Zone 3 in Leighton. What does that mean? It means that, prices are going up onwards out in the suburbs. We had something similar here in Ilford. It means that, prices are going up there, but people are leaving London. We've had to the point of, people who are saying, okay, well, I'm going to sell my property in a distressed condition, say that I've got a house somewhere in Whitechapel in Zone 1. It's worth 550k. Get me 390. I need my money out of it. Prices. They did increase outside London. In London, it fell. There's a lot that can be said about that. Even if you look at the commercial market, prices. I was
just thinking. If you are working from home and you have taken the house outside London, you are saving 300 to 400 pounds, isn't it?
Potentially, yeah.
More than that.
More than that sometimes, exactly. If you were to look at, so for example, you've got a house somewhere in, what could we say? Anyway, I mean, Mile End Bow, for a 3-bedroom house, you're looking, well over 2,600 pounds minimum was your baseline for something that was habitable pre-COVID. If you were to spend that same amount in Zone 4, Zone 5, even if you got towards Loughton, right? No, Loughton's Zone 4, not Zone 5. But
Loughton's Zone 4, yeah.
You're getting a 6-bedroom house that's very nicely done up. You've got your garden, which is the biggest thing. That drove a lot of people to leave. They wanted outside space, right? You're living in a flat somewhere in central London.
Okay, the stamp duty holiday was till 31st of March. So they have extended it?
Yeah, that's been extended.
How they extended it? Can you explain it? They have done it till 30th of July, I think?
No, 30th of June. So the stamp duty has been... the holiday period has been extended to 30th of June. So there was a lot of uproar that it was finishing on the 31st of March. And people want to buy. There was a massive delay in completions because there's not enough solicitors and surveys and whatnot. So that's been increased. And just to kind of get people going, they've also done a further increase to say, okay, until between the 1st of July and the 30th of September, the first 250 will be 0% as well. So they're really trying to, the government's trying to kickstart the buying economy, get people buying. And the second thing is they want people to spend money on their homes, right? So, the government has given out loads of grants. They've set up loads of different schemes, boilers, double glazing, whereby you get a voucher that you give to an approved contractor who'll come in and redo the double glazing in your house up to £5,000. You'll get a new boiler. You'll get there's certain covenants around it about who can get what. But the idea is, yes, they want people to invest in, in their homes. There was
because it's overall this helps the other industries as well.
Exactly. So there was a survey that was done. I can't remember who actually did the survey off the top of my head, but basically what they said is they surveyed I can't remember how many households it was either, but it was in the region of something like 60% within the space of the first and second lockdown spent over £5,000 on home improvements. And it was like, okay, I got to work from home now, so I want to make sure I got a nice spot to work in. I've got a desk. I'm spending money on a desk. The spare room, I've given it a lick of paint and I've turned it into a study. But then on top of that, because you're now sitting at home the whole time, you're like, the garden's looking a bit shabby. I'm going to spend some money there. I might want a conservatory. Let's do an extension.
I was just reading figures like the people have saved £3.1 billion in terms of stamp duty. Like the overall with the transactions that happened, and the 3.1 billion saved, and definitely they have put this money back to their homes, and they have tried to improve their houses, isn't it?
Exactly.
And when they are improving their houses, the other industries are getting better, is it?
Exactly. I would totally agree.
This is a very good technique, Mr. Rishi Sunak.
It is a very good technique, but then you get the problem on the flip side is where someone's gone, oh, I've got, £25,000-30,000 surplus now because I didn't want to spend it on stamp duty. I'm going to go into a bidding war because I really want the house, and that's pushing prices up. We've seen it in certain clusters where that's really happened. But like I said, price is driven by supply and demand, right? So there's more demand, less supply, price is going to go up. That's what's happening.
So in your opinion, what will happen in future? Like till June, July, the property prices in London and around area will remain stable?
So residential in London, so we specialize kind of in London. Yes, I think property prices are not going to remain stable. They're going to go up. As we come out of lockdown, we're going to have more and more, international investors who are now like, okay, UK is getting better. Where do I park my money? A lot of people made a lot of money in these lockdowns. Prices will go up. Prices generally for an upward trajectory. I don't think there'll ever be in the near future. So whatever happened and what people thought that, we're going to have another crash, like, post the recession in 2007, 8 and 9. I don't think something like that will happen again. The market's very savvy to that. Investors are very savvy to that. Prices will go up in London. You'll see people moving back to London.
We have to quickly go on to the break. What about the rental value?
Rental values, I think, will remain stable in London. More and more people are buying. The new way of working means people are living further out of London.
Rental value already gone down, and now they will remain stable, isn't it?
I think they'll remain stable. We needed this. This correction was needed.
This correction,
very
actually,
much.
In fact, it's a correction. Yeah,
it is a correction. I wouldn't say pricing correction. It was definitely needed. And I think it will stay consistent.
Okay, stay tuned. Please don't forget to call us on 0333 444 0940. We are talking with our very young the financial analyst, Mr. Salman. You can ask a question, and in the third part, we are going to discuss about the red list. The government has put Pakistan into it. So stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum.
This is Aisha. Her father died in an accident at a very young age. She lives with her mother and siblings. There are millions like Aisha who do not have access to the very basics of life, resulting in her and many others not being able to attend school. Through Minhaj Welfare Foundation, your charity is dedicated towards supporting the full needs of orphans and needy children around the world. Donate today. Call us now 0300 30 30 777. or visit us on minhajwelfare.org.
अब हम धीरे धीरे लॉकडाउन से बाहर आ रहे हैं। घर से बाहर 6 लोगों तक के ग्रुप में या 2 खानदान आपस में मिल सकते हैं। दोस्तों को गार्डन लंच पर बुलाइए। लीजिए, आप अपने हिस्से का काम कर रहे हैं, एक मुनासिब फासला बनाकर। लेकिन जब अंधेरा होने लगे और थोड़ी ठंड भी, तो अचानक से दिल में आरामदेह लाउंज में जाने की ख्वाहिश जाग सकती है। लेकिन याद रखिए ताज़ा हवा में आप ज्यादा महफूज हैं क्योंकि कोविड-19 के ज़र्रात इसमें उड़ जाते हैं। आइए इस अगले कदम को इंतहाई एहतियात से उठाएं। याद रखें hands, face, space and fresh air.
Turkish Kitchen. The best Turkish food you'll ever taste. We only use the highest quality meat. Along with our mixed grill platters, we serve cold mezes, hot mezes, lamachin, and a wide selection of fish options. To order for delivery or collection, call us now on 0208 507 8822. That's 0208 507 8822. Or visit us at 41 Ripple Road, Barking, IG11 7NT. We can also take group bookings and take care of all your party needs. The Turkish Kitchen, Barking.
Census Day was the 21st of March, but you must still complete yours.
I completed my census for our community spaces.
For better healthcare.
For our kids' schools.
The census is everyone's responsibility. You must complete yours now. Census 2021. It's about us. Delivered by the Office for National Statistics.
Revive FM.
94.0. On the radio.
On your mobile.
And online.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to Revive FM 94.1. I'm your host Nawaz Raja Pakistani with your weekly program, and today we are discussing with Mr. Salman Raja, who is financial analyst and asset management and property management experience as well. And this is the third part of the program, and we're going to discuss a different thing. Last week, the UK government has put Pakistan into the red list in it, and from 9th of April, 4 a.m. in the morning, the Pakistan country will be in the red list. It's not only Pakistan, they have put Bangladesh, Kenya, and other 4 countries, but we are going to discuss about the Pakistan first. And, in Pakistani communities, quite a lot, the people are discussing on it, that why they have put Pakistan into red list, because the Pakistan is doing very well, and internationally, they have recognized that Pakistan, through the smart lockdown the technique, they have controlled coronavirus last way very well. Mm-hmm. So why they have put Pakistan into it?
Why have they put Pakistan into it? I think that's the question on everyone's lips. Even, we've got a lot of representation in Parliament, and individuals like Naz Shah have sent off letters to the government saying what's going on. This seems to be very out of play. You put Pakistan on this red list. Looking at Pakistan from now, essentially for me right now, sitting in the UK, stuck and not allowed to go anywhere, you're looking at Pakistan from the outside and you're like, hang on a second. Everything seems to be going pretty well. Got friends in Pakistan, and they're just like, everyone's enjoying, people sharing masks, and it's quite relaxed there. But where you do have certain towns, and they'll lock it down, and it'll be like, okay, no one's allowed to leave this town. They're controlling it very well. Why is Pakistan back on the list? I think there's one of the biggest things, and look, I always say, you need to play the devil's advocate sometimes. You need to look at things very impartially from both sides. The biggest thing was you had a lot of people that left the UK from our community thinking, I want to escape this lockdown. I'd rather spend, the end and the beginning of the year in Pakistan.
But we cannot say every single person is going like this. Some people are going.
There were a lot of people who went. I'd rather spend it there. And I, for me, if I didn't have to work and you don't have to, you've got a more relaxed lifestyle, you would do that. I think that played a role in it, because there were a lot of people who were going. There was a BBC report that went out recently to say that people went and they potentially took over this second variant that was in the UK. Whether or not I agree with it is a completely different story. To be honest, I don't. Yes, there could be some truth in it, but the second thing is they were saying about immunization and this, the threat of a spread of a second variant in Pakistan. Pakistan, yes, alhamdulillah, the government's doing a lot to kind of immunize people, give people the vaccine. It does take time. The supply chain isn't as developed as it is in certain European Western countries, but it's improving. So personally, I don't think it should have gone on the list. But yeah, it has unfortunately.
I'm just reading one of the letter from Naz Shah MP, who is member of Parliament for Bradford West, and she wrote a letter to Mr. Dominic, and she mentioned one of the figures in it is quite interesting. That she's writing that according to recent available data, for the last 7 days, France, Germany, and India have substantially higher number of infections per 100,000. These figures can be found below. Like the Pakistan has 13 people per 100,000. UK has 54 people, and Bangladesh has 15. Germany has 137. Kenya has 17. India has 24, and France has 403. They said why they did not put other countries into the red list, and why they're putting the Pakistan, which is the lowest in the infection rate, isn't it? That's quite interesting, isn't it?
No, it is, and that's why a lot of people have been saying that, is this really scientifically driven, or is there some kind of political motivation behind it? Because looking at that list now, I've got the letter in front of me. Pakistan, Bangladesh, and you can say the same thing about Kenya. That's a very low number, 13, 15, and 17.
As compared to the UK and
the UK
and France, isn't it?
And look at Germany and France, right?
Yeah.
But there's no covenant really around going to Germany and France. You can, you can travel. You can't go on holiday. Okay, there's that, right? People are flouting that rule. We won't say that they're not. People are doing that. Where there's an opportunity, people will always do that. But regardless of whether or not it's in Europe or if you still got ties through the EU, there still needs to be some kind of check and balance. India's at 24. No comment as of yet of what's going on in India. And it really does make you think, is this politically motivated?
Yeah.
Is there some kind of agenda behind it? Yes, people...
Because Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, they are in the same region, isn't it?
Well,
they are in the same region. They're putting Pakistan and Bangladesh into it.
And the guy
why what's the scientific, the thing behind it?
What's the thinking behind it? And exactly, and I totally agree with you. And how can, they did the same thing with countries that were on the travel corridor, the United Arab Emirates. And overnight it went to red list. It didn't even go to, you got to do a 10-day quarantine. It went from you're allowed to travel freely down to red list. Why really? What's going on there? What's is there really a political agenda behind it, or is it something else? And it's important that we highlight, stuff like this.
I don't know about the political agenda, but looking into the figures, it's quite, I will say, it's very strange. By putting Pakistan into the red list, and I know my mother was expecting to come to the UK in the near future for a couple of our weddings. So no, she cannot come because when you are as per new red list rules, only the people who have residence card or the British or the Northern Ireland passport, they are allowed to travel. The other people cannot travel into it. So the people who have the visit visa, they cannot travel into it. This is the biggest hit. Okay, there's some people still on red list. People will come onto the airport and they will go into the
hotels.
The hotels, and
yes,
this is the extra charge on it as well. So this is not fair for the people who are the British national who are coming back to their own country, and they're coming from that the part of the world which is the lowest infection rate as well, and they're controlling very well. But they have to pay the extra money out of it, isn't it? It's quite the unfair. I don't know what will happen, but I was just checking the news on the BBC that Mr. Boris Johnson, Prime Minister, going to brief the nation on the further second step of the easing of lockdown, which is 5 o'clock. And the main headlines, I was reading it. The government will say whether non-essential retail can reopen and restaurants allowed to serve outdoors from 12th of April. So this is good news. I think they will, in my view.
I hope they do.
It look like
I really
they will
need a haircut, so I really hope they do.
About the haircut, they're saying the close contact services such as hairdressers and barbers may be allowed to open their doors again on the same date. And one thing which is quite interesting to me, like this, more details might be given on the possible use of COVID certificates to access services or events domestically. You know, the people who run these channels, YouTube channels, and they give the conspiracy theories. It will be a very hot topic for them as well.
Exactly. No, exactly.
They will start telling, okay, this is the coronavirus. What we are telling you, that they are going to control you through these certificates, isn't it?
At least they're not saying they're going to put a chip inside you and they're going to become a 5G mast and you can start emitting radio waves. No, it's interesting. You know what? Even if they did, I don't think the infrastructure is in place for them to be able to monitor something like that. I remember when the first, kind of, okay, you come into the country, you got to have a COVID test, you got to isolate for 10 days and quarantine. And up until December of last year, there was no real check and balance behind what was going on there. I traveled for business. I know many people who were traveling for business for legitimate reasons. And we're going to different countries all over the world. And you come back and, you're told that you have to, sign up to the government's, the NHS track and trace. If you don't, and you go through the passport control and you haven't, it's like £1,000 fine and you can be, criminal proceedings, blah, blah, blah. And it's like you get there and the guys that are telling you which line to go into for the passport e-gates weren't wearing masks. And you're like, I don't really think no one's checking. And from my own circle, and as far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure no one had the police knock on their door to say, are you actually quarantining? This only happened with this second wave and the really hard restrictions they put on. So my question is the same thing, is do they have the infrastructure to even police something like this?
The COVID certificates.
Exactly.
What do you think of the COVID passports, green passport for travel? Just came in mind because I was listening to this idea that they're going. It's not about the UK government. It's in another country. They're saying to issue the green passport, the people who have the COVID vaccines, so they can travel freely around the world.
So like when
it's
when
a very strange idea.
It's strange, isn't it? But like when you put it this way, we've been doing this for a long time, right? Yeah. So, for example, if you want to go on Umrah or you want to go on Hajj, right, and you're going from the UK, what do you need? You need a meningitis certificate, right? To say, yes, I had a vaccine. And I think it lasts for like 5 years or however long it is.
Exactly.
But you still have to present that, and you have to present that on entry, right? And otherwise, they don't let you into the country. So we've had that for a while. So that makes sense. At the borders, you can police it. But in the private sector, the biggest things that's going to open right now is the restaurants, the bars, the pubs, the clubs.
How are
you going to get people? And this was just before this radio show. I was listening to Sky. They were mentioning that you've got businesses that are already at their tether now. They have either gone bankrupt or bust, or they're about to. And April the 12th is probably the deadline for them to decide whether or not they can open their doors. How are you going to expect a business that's just about surviving to be able to police this? How are you going to expect local councils who, they are, some would argue they're not, but the local councils are at their limits as well. How would you expect them to kind of police? And what's to say
that's a good point, isn't it? That's a very good point.
It is a very good point. And just one final point I want to add to that, and this is something I read this morning. There's an 18-year-old kid somewhere up north in the Midlands who was handing out fake COVID certificates. How can you prevent that? And he got caught doing it. It's like 18 years old. He's not going to get in much trouble, but you need to police that.
Okay, we have to go. We have to close down our program now. Sure. So we just have left only 30 seconds. So inshallah, in next program, I'm hoping to discuss this point in next program. I'm going to discuss with my other guests. If you can get a time, you can come again.
Definitely.
And we can discuss this point as well. So till next week, inshallah, we will meet again. Until then, assalamu alaikum.
If you want to advertise your business on Revive FM,